Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? Days like these are ones that make me super grateful for just the people that are in my life. Like all of these students up here who are able to step out in boldness and use their gifts for the glory of the kingdom. That's what students is all about. We want to help students know who Jesus is, and then after they know who he is, we want them to go out into the world and spread the good news that is Jesus to everyone around them. So super, super grateful. My name's Jansen. I'm the student pastor here. We've been in a series about teaching about the Sermon on the Mount. I think this is week 11, so we're in it. We're deep in it. I'm going to continue today. We're going to be talking about judgment. Is it okay to judge? Is it okay to judge myself? Is comparison judgment? All of these things that are wrapped up in the first half of Matthew chapter 7, We all judge, right? We all subconsciously even judge others. We subconsciously judge ourselves. Middle school Jansen was so aware of everyone around him judging him because they all were looking right at me, right? I had these shoes. I had these Vans. They were nice Vans. Don't get me wrong. They were real nice. I loved them with my full heart. The problem wasn't the shoe, it was my foot, okay? My foot still to this day is about this wide. I'm not even joking. Well, I'm joking a little bit, but I would have to tie these shoes so tight that, you know how shoes are, right? Where you got both ends that are interlacing with the shoelace and you pull them together. You guys know what I'm talking about? Yes, thank you, Kevin. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, and then like the tongue goes up the middle. I would have them so tight that you couldn't even see the tongue in the middle. I know, and you think, Jansen, why? Well, I don't want my shoes flopping around. But I had big shoelaces, like bunny ears, like so much I could wrap them around the bottom of the shoe and back up to the top and tie them. I'm not even joking. So I was super self-conscious about my shoe situation. I had a buddy named Alex, and he had some really nice shoes. He just customized them. They weren't Jordans, but they were like Nike high tops, Milford Eagles colors, so red, black, and white. As you do in middle school, just so passionate about your middle school teams. Go Eagles. And I was like, dude, those are so cool. It's like, yeah, I know. Sorry, he had a really deep voice. Yeah, I know. So that should lead you to like, oh, he's probably tall, right? I just want to give you guys a picture of Alex. Probably tall, probably like 6 foot. He had his growth spurt already. He's well through he's got chest hair and all. Armpit hair showing me every day in the gym. It's great. And here I am, not hit my growth spurt. I don't think I broke 100 pounds until sophomore year. I'm like, oh man, those are so cool. And one day, I don't know, out of the blue, Alex and I were really good friends. One day out of the blue, he's like, here, Jansen, I want to give you these shoes, because he knew my battle with my shoe situation. I want to give you these shoes. It's like, oh yeah, that's awesome. I wore a size like 7. He wore a size 11. So you'd think, oh, he'd probably wait until, he grew into the shoes. No, I was so self-conscious about the judgment from other people that I decided to wear boats on my feet instead of having to suffer through the judgment that I felt I was receiving for my Vans. We do a lot to avoid judgment. We do a lot to avoid people coming at us with negative things. And oftentimes we are on the other side throwing those negative things at people. So I want us to all know, and I think you all know, it's okay that we judge people. It's okay. But where does the problem lie? In Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, Jesus is talking, still on the mount, the big hill. He's continuing on with just another topic, one after another. So he says, do not judge, or you too will be judged. Pretty straightforward. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And this is where it gets fun. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. So Jesus at first obviously says, don't judge. But as Jesus often does, he's like, but, in verse 2, he continues and says, he's talking about the shallow, the hypocritical, the selfish criticism. In John 7, verse 24, it says, judge not by appearance, but by right judgment, right? So what is that right judgment? Jesus is asking us to distinguish the difference between good and evil. He wants us to discern. He doesn't want us to judge, to condemn. He doesn't want us to take his spot. He doesn't give us the authority to judge the righteousness of others using our own preference or our own standard, because we are not God. None of us are perfectly righteous. We're in no place to just casually pronounce judgment, because we are often guilty of the same thing that we're casting judgment for. He continues in verse 3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite. Whew. First take the plank out of your own eye, and then you'll be able to see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. We all have blind spots. We're often blind to our own sin. So that makes our foolish condemnation towards others, it makes it look so much worse. Of course, Jesus is exaggerating here, right? No one's gonna have sawdust in their eye. No one's gonna have a plank in their eye. But it's a good analogy. It's a good hyperbole for how we can look at our lives and say, where are my blind spots at? Because I'm in no position to help someone, and I want you to hear me, to help someone to discern if someone needs help getting the speck out of their eye. I am in no position to do that if I've got a giant plank in mine. We have to look inward. We have to ask God, where are my blind spots? What am I not seeing? What am I not doing right? It's human nature. That's why we can't assume that position of judge. We can't take God's position as the one who condemns, the one who loves. Once the log is gone, that's when we can help. We can help from a place of equality with our brothers and sisters, right? We're no longer taking this pedestal of righteousness, this pedestal of I'm better than you, so I'm gonna help you out here. I'm gonna stoop below and grab you up. We're in no position to do that. Once we take that log out of our own eye, we can come to a brother in love, a sister in love, in compassion, in fairness, and we can help them remove that. That leads us to verse 6. And when I first read verse 6, I was like, how does this have anything to do with the rest of this? With the last 5 verses. I'm gonna read it. He says, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. All right, Jesus, cool. What does that mean? I think there's a couple interpretations of this, but I think the most important one is we have to be able to discern people's emotional ability to receive judgment, to receive help, to receive the gospel even. Back in Jesus' times, dogs and pigs were seen as like the low. Like, we're not talking like your golden retriever that sits on your lap while you watch football. Low. This is like dumpster diving, I don't know, bad stuff, all right? And everyone knows pigs are gross. We can all smell those. We live in Goshen, Indiana, and we know what those are like. So he's not saying that we shouldn't share what we have, right? We shouldn't share judgment. We shouldn't share the gospel. What he's saying is when people aren't emotionally capable, or if they are actively against what Jesus stands for, he's saying, go find someone who has a seed who's already planted, who's been watered, and see if you can take them to the next step. We need to share the gospel. I mean, just previously in the sermon, Jesus told us to let our light shine before the world. Jesus said this to call us to discernment and to encourage us to look for prepared hearts that are ready to receive. And when we find those hearts, we can trust that God has already been working in them, doing the work that we can't do. I think there's a flip of the coin with judgment. Because we've been talking about this whole time about judging others, right? I think something that I struggle with the most is judging myself. I quickly compare myself and where I am in life to others around me. I mean, in reality, how else are we supposed to find out where we are in life? Like this ladder, right? Well, where am I here? How do I compare to these people? How do I need to act in these situations? Because I'm looking at other people's opinions of me and determining that their opinion of me is more valuable than God's opinion of me. God says that we are loved, we are cherished, we are knitted in our mother's wombs for a purpose. We shouldn't be looking at others for approval. And it's so easy to, because social media is just exponentially increasing the human condition, right? So we all judge, we all compare ourselves, but when you throw social media into it, now you have access to the world. And you see where everybody's at. I love this story in John chapter 21. It's after Jesus has resurrected and he appears to the disciples and they scare him. They think he's a ghost. After all that's said and done, they're walking with Jesus, him and some of the disciples. And I'm going to pick up here in verse 18. This is Jesus speaking. He says, "Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." So Peter gets this nugget. I would say it's a gift. This is where you're going. This is what's gonna happen to you. You're gonna live your life, and right now you're gonna be able to go where you need to go, and you're gonna be able to wander this life as I call you to. But eventually there will be a time where you die. People will take you and crucify you, but just know it'll glorify me. This is good. This is good news. Scary, but good. It continues in verse 20. Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved. Thanks, John. John always does that. I don't know what he's on about. He thinks he's the favorite, whatever. Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. And then John continues and says, "This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, 'Lord, who's gonna betray you?'" Like, oh, Jesus. Hey, friend. So funny. When Peter saw him, he asked, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Good grief, I get goosebumps. That's incredible. If we're ever wondering what we need to do, instead of looking at the people around us and comparing ourselves to them, we've been asked to just follow him. Peter was given this gift. Not only the gift of knowing how and when he would die, and knowing that it would glorify God, but just speaking to Jesus is a gift. And Peter's first reaction is, what about this guy? I look at my life and I often wonder how much of my life I have missed. The life that's right in front of me, because I'm too busy looking at someone else's life, wishing that I had theirs, wishing that I was in this position, wishing that I had more money, wishing that I had a better house, wishing that I had different friends. Oftentimes, when you're comparing yourself to those people, you aren't getting the full picture. I think we're very, very quick to blame social media of everyone is living this life, this glorified highlight reel. But how many people, I'm talking to myself here, how often do I share when I'm going through something difficult with the people around me? We are not getting the full picture of the people that we are comparing ourselves to. We're getting like the cropped images. We're not getting real, we're getting reels. R-E-E-L-S. We don't see the messy house, we don't see the screaming kids, we don't see the anxiety, we don't see the depression, we don't see any of that. We don't see the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome. I follow a guy on Instagram named Nick Bear. This dude is jacked, huge. He runs like a 2-minute mile or something stupid like that. I don't know. Squats 1,000,000 pounds. Makes me feel bad about myself. I was at the gym with Chris, and I don't know if you've seen us side by side, but we've got very different body types. I've got long, dangly arms and long, dangly legs. And I'm watching Chris bench. It's like, again, 1,000,000 pounds. In my eyes anyway. He's benching, he's just repping them out, crushing it. I look at my long arms, I'm like, I can maybe do 210s on the side. I got a longer distance to go, okay? But when you're under that weight, if I were to put 225 on that bar, thinking that I could be Chris, and when I get to hear him under that weight, that burden, that I wasn't built for, and I'm only there because I'm comparing myself to someone who is built for it. We put ourselves through unnecessary pain. You're putting yourself in a position that you are not built for when you're comparing yourself to others. I use this analogy all the time with students. The church, we're all different parts of the body, right? If you ask a thumb to do an elbow's job, what's the point? It's not going to be able to do it nearly as good. We all have different calls, different abilities, different ways that God has blessed us in our lives to help the kingdom and push it forward. So what does all this mean? We're comparing ourselves to others, we're judging, we're using discernment sometimes. Oftentimes we've got a plank in our own eye. I think the call is to judge properly and look to the one who created you for affirmation. So how do we do that? Talk about gratitude a lot lately. That's the first one. Just be grateful. It's easy. Just be grateful. It takes practice, guys. Talk a lot about being grateful because it's the hardest thing to remember, yet the most rewarding thing. I'll throw out another student's analogy here for you. Students are probably rolling their eyes at this point. When you look for red cars, what do you normally see? Red cars. So when you're looking for the goodness that God has placed in your life, what do you see? The goodness that God has placed in your life. If we're looking for the bad stuff, if we're looking at what we don't have, what is that worth? What is that for? Second takeaway, look beyond the highlight reel. It might be time to stop looking at your phone. If we're spending more time with our eyes on the screen rather than making eye contact with another person, what are we doing? My screen time is through the roof. We're talking like, I'm gonna be vulnerable here. We're talking 4 hours a day. 4 hours of my life sucked in this screen, looking at all the highlight reels, all the best days, all the cool stuff that people have, all the big muscles that people have that I don't have. It's time to look beyond the highlight reel. Third point. Live in reality. This kind of goes in the second point. Live in reality and invite others in. I think the second part of this, live in reality and invite others in. I talked not too long ago about having pantry rights. The sooner that we can let people in to our lives and all the good things, all the bad things, the more struggles that we share with people, the second we do that, we start to notice the realness of people. We start to create empathy for one another. How are we supposed to judge someone if we know exactly where they've come from? What is the old saying? Walk 10 miles in someone's shoes. What's the saying? What is it? I'm asking. What is it? Walk a mile, just a mile. Walk 10 miles. It's time to invite others in. We want people in our lives that will call the best out of us. Ones who we can see specks and they're open to say, I'm an open book. What do you have for me? I've got all these blind spots surrounding me. I can't see anything. I need you to help me. We often discount the ability that God, or we often discount the how many times God uses other people in our lives to speak, for him to speak to us. Let me re-say that. God uses other people more often than not to speak to us. Last thing. help someone else, when you're focused on relating to and supporting other people and their relationship with Jesus and with their goals, you quickly get distracted about who's better than who. I'm gonna use another saying. You guys ready? I'm just full of them today. When the tide rises, all ships rise. It doesn't have to be a me versus you thing. We can all grow together. Someone graduated at 22, but they had to wait 5 years to get a job. Someone became a great businessman at 25, but died at 50. Another person became a manager at 50 and lived to be 90 with health. Someone remains single while someone else is getting married. Someone's pregnant, someone's not. All of us in this world, we work based on our own time zones. We all move in our own time and in God's timing, and it's different for every single one of us. Don't underestimate people or belittle people. They're in God's timing, and you should be setting yours. Life boils down to each of us waiting for our right time to act, for God to tell us now. So relax. You're not early. You're not late. God has got you in his hands. You're perfectly on time because that's what he wants for you. He wants you to step into who you are. Let's pray. God, I just want us to sit here for a little bit. Peyton, I wouldn't mind if you played. God, can you show us some of our blind spots? God, when we were quick to judge, I pray for forgiveness. God, thank you for the reminder that everyone is formed to be like you in your likeness. God, I pray that we can see the best qualities in one another. I pray that we can expect the best out of each other. I pray that we look for the best in one another. And Lord, if any of these blind spots that you just gave your people, Father, I pray that I pray that we can do something with that information, Lord. Lord, I pray that you place people in our lives that will be able to say, hey, dude, you've got a speck. You've got a blind spot. Lord, I pray for clarity. God, I pray for people who have been judged wrongly. Lord, I pray that they can forgive the person who judged them. God, I pray that we can see the good in our lives. God, thank you for the gifts, the abilities, the personalities, the emotions that you've given us. God, I pray that we can go out of here today looking for affirmation in you and not in others. It's in your name we pray. Amen.